Gene Kelly was literally the director's last choice for the lead role. The actor to play the villain was hired by mistaking identity. The director bribed a New York City official for the high-speed chase, and some of the super specific scenes that come from true events will surprise you. And I couldn't believe this movie's connection to a fast food chain until I fact-checked it. Let's get into it. The French Connection is the 70th best film, ranked by the American Film Institute. It is a 1971 crime thriller directed by William Friedkin. The movie follows New York City detectives Jimmy Popeye Doyle, played by Gene Hackman, and Buddy Russo, played by Roy Scheider, as they investigate a major heroin smuggling operation. The case leads them to a sophisticated French drug dealer, Alain Charnier. Fernando Rey plays this character, who is attempting to ship a massive quantity of heroin into the United States. This film is renowned for its gritty realism, intense action sequences, and a legendary car chase scene through the streets of New York City. As the detectives close in on Charnier, the tension mounts, culminating in a gripping and ambiguous finale. The movie explores themes of obsession, morality, and the dark underbelly of the drug trade, and it won many awards, including 5 Academy Awards, which included the Best Picture and Best Actor for Gene Hackman. There were 3 things that stood out to me while watching this movie. Firstly, the character Popeye Doyle, who Gene Hackman really disliked, actually. The second is the constant motion of the film. And 3 is the realism. And some of the ways that this movie was real really shocked me. I'll get into that. These 3 points intermingle seamlessly that connect each scene throughout the movie to keep you hooked from beginning to end. Firstly, let's talk about Detective Doyle. Gene Hackman's character is Detective Popeye Doyle. Interestingly, director Friedman didn't want both the main characters, both Gene Hackman playing Detective Doyle and Fernando Rey, who played the French drug smuggler Alain Charnier. Not only did director Friedkin not want Hackman for the role, but also after the first few days of shooting, even Hackman didn't think he could do it. Hackman found it so difficult to play Detective Doyle, but he still won an Oscar as Best Actor. Hackman's difficulty was that he hadn't done a tough guy role as extreme as this before. Keep in mind, this is early in his career. That, along with his hesitation to use offensive racial slurs, made the role difficult for him to perform. However, Friedkin was in a bind to get the movie made on time and decided to keep Hackman for the role. Originally, Friedkin had wanted Jackie Gleason for the role of Popeye Doyle, but Gleason's last movie was a flop, which turned Friedkin away. Hackman was suggested by his agent to Friedkin, who had already been turned down by about 7 or 8 other actors, so it really came down to either choosing Gene Hackman as the lead or to literally scrap the movie. Friedkin decided to go with Hackman. Hackman's character, Detective Doyle, is a tough, relentless, and obsessive police officer. He is known for his aggressive and unorthodox methods, often bending the rules to pursue criminals. His character is gritty, morally ambiguous, and driven by a deep-seated determination to crack down on drug smuggling, often at great personal cost. His intensity and single-mindedness make him both an effective cop and a complex, flawed individual. The movie's tagline found on the poster is, "He's a bad man, but a good cop." He rarely plans ahead and is all action. Never knowing what he is going to do, along with knowing that he is willing to do anything to get his man, makes him so interesting to watch. He is also an interesting contrast to the villain, Alain Charnier, played by Fernando Rey. Hackman is a boisterous bigot, but a dedicated policeman, compared to the villain's soft, well-mannered behavior despite being a criminal. Interestingly, Fernando Rey was cast as Alain Charnier by accident. Friedkin told his casting director that he wanted the actor from the film Belle de Jour. The director replied that the actor he was thinking of was Fernando Rey, who they hired unseen, as they were on a time crunch. However, when Friedkin met Rey, he realized that his casting director got the name wrong. Friedkin was thinking of the actor Francisco Rabal. However, Rabal was unavailable, and what's more, he didn't speak English. Alternatively, Fernando Rey was already hired, but he is a Spaniard who doesn't speak French. So he was already hired, Friedkin was running out of time, and he decided to keep Rey to play the French villain. Secondly, this film has constant motion in it. Almost as much motion as a Richard Simmons workout video. It was so constant that Gene Hackman suffered significant pain from it. Back to that in a moment. The French Connection was filmed in New York City, which provides a backdrop that automatically adds a sense of emotion. The film captures the city's constant activity, making it a character in its own right. Additionally, the cinematography was purposely done with handheld cameras for many of its scenes, immersing the audience in the frenetic pace of the detective's investigation. And finally, Detective Doyle himself was in a constant state of motion. The detective spends several scenes either beating people up or sprinting after the suspect, either on foot or in the famous car chase, which they filmed illegally. In fact, to film the chase on the train tracks, director Friedkin went as far as to bribe an official with A, a small credited role in the movie, B, $40,000 in a one-way plane ticket to Jamaica, or C, 4 season tickets to both the Yankees and Knicks games. We'll come back to that in a moment. Gene Hackman had significant pain with all the running in the film, as he had a bad knee from a vehicle accident while serving as a Marine in Asia. He was a Marine from 1946 to 1951. This leads us to realism. You'll be surprised to find out the very specific lines and even certain character movements in the movie happened in real life. As mentioned before, Friedkin wanted the movie to look like a documentary, so he used handheld cameras in New York City as the setting. As mentioned before, the handheld cameras in New York City being the setting lends to realism. Friedkin wanted the movie to look like a documentary, so he did next to no rehearsal as a group. The actors rehearsed separately from the film crew, with the idea being that the lack of choreography would create a more natural, real-time filming of the actors' scenes. They didn't use sets. The city itself was the set. The director, William Friedkin, would walk dozens of blocks to find the perfect spot for very specific scenes. The biggest reason for the film's realism is due to 2 very special technical advisors. Let's back up a step. The French Connection was a book before it was a movie, and the book was based on true events. The legendary heroin bust in 1961 by 2 New York City detectives, Eddie Egan and Sonny Grosso. These 2 men led an investigation over 10 months that culminated in breaking up a drug ring, seizing 112 pounds of heroin, which came from France. This was a new record amount at the time. Over a decade later, Eddie and Sonny found themselves as advisors on the movie, The French Connection, where Gene Hackman is playing Eddie Egan's character, and Roy Scheider is playing Sonny Grosso's character. Director Friedkin used the 2 advisors constantly, both before and during the film. In fact, Eddie Egan had an acting role in the film as Captain Walt Simonson, Detective Doyle's superior, and Sonny Grosso had a lesser role as Detective Klein. Leading up to the film, director Friedkin and actors Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider spent a month-long ride-along with both Detective Egan and Grosso. They went out on raids with them where they would commonly see the detectives bust up a bar, commandeer drugs, and apprehend suspects. This was the basis for when Detective Doyle gets the entire bar against the wall. That was based on a real event. Interestingly, all of the extras in this scene are police officers. And not just in this scene, there are several scenes where extras or small roles are active police officers. Eddie Egan and Sonny Grosso had more very specific suggestions on scenes to add to the movie that had happened to them in real life. The Frenchman's wave in the train, that happened to Eddie Egan in real life. He was chasing the perpetrator who gave him a slip on the train and cheekily waved goodbye. Egan did eventually apprehend the man. I don't know if you've thought this when I put Egan's photo up on the screen, but he is a dead ringer for a police officer. He looks like he was born wearing a uniform and badge.
Detectives have wide set eyes and a strong chin.
This made it difficult for him to be undercover. An effective ploy he used during the Christmas season was to dress up as Santa Claus, as no one would suspect Santa Claus of being a policeman. He did this successfully for several years.
You sat on the edge of the bed, didn't you? You took off your shoes, put your finger between your toes and picked your feet, didn't you?
Picking your feet in Poughkeepsie was a non sequitur to throw off interrogation subjects. This was suggested by Egan, who would commonly use this tactic back in his policing days. So having the 2 original drug busters of this story, showing the actors how to break down a bar, teaching them how to use non sequiturs, and sharing specific scenes like the wave from the departing train were integral to this movie's realism. Let's talk about the car chase scene before talking about this movie's connection to a fast food chain. The car chase scene in The French Connection is argued to be one of the best car chases in film history. Some of the car crashes in the film are real. It was filmed in real traffic, and it was done illegally. It was illegal as Friedkin filmed the car chase scene without official permits. Friedkin has stated that he bribed the head of public relations with the transit authority with $40,000 and a one-way ticket to Jamaica to be allowed to film on the elevated train tracks. The man knew he would be fired after it was found out he granted permission, and he wanted to retire in Jamaica, hence the one-way ticket. After the movie came out, he was fired. Friedkin used Egan and Grosso to hire off-duty cops to block side streets and flash their badges at pedestrians and other cops to keep the film crew from being arrested during the shoot and to protect pedestrians. However, they could not account for the cars parked on the street and pedestrians living in the side buildings. This, along with the high speed of the car, led to several real accidents that Friedkin used in the final film. In one scene, the stunt driver Bill Hickman drove 26 blocks at 90 miles an hour at one point. This also takes us back to the film's realism. Nowadays, much of the car chase's excitement in a movie is manufactured in post-editing, while in The French Connection, it was a real high-speed chase. Here's a fun fact about the French Connection in a fast food chain. Eddie Egan gained the nickname Popeye as he would often bulge his eyes and flex his muscles after catching who he was chasing as a policeman. It's reported that he had arrested up to 8,000 people during his career. So this is why Detective Doyle is called Popeye in the movie. Have you ever eaten at Popeye's, the Louisiana fried chicken place? Well, it started out with the name Chicken on the Run, but struggled to attract customers in the early 70s. The founder, Arthur Copeland, redid the menu and renamed the restaurant Popeye's after Gene Hackman's character in The French Connection. I'm completely serious. You can look it up for yourself on the Popeye's website. So is the 70th best film of all time worth watching on movie night? Yes, but there are maybe 2 reasons that you might not want to watch it. I really enjoyed the pace of the movie. It's non-stop action. That, along with how real every scene is, in large part to the direction of Eddie Egan and Sonny Grosso, and the unpredictability of Popeye Doyle, makes the film a lot of fun to watch. My wife was less enthused for 2 reasons. Gene Hackman's character is very unpleasant. He's aggressive and a loud bigot. Additionally, this movie doesn't have what I can describe as a happy ending. Overall, we both enjoyed the movie. I do think it has a place in your movie night selection. The last Top 100 film we watched has the best, worst ending to a movie I have ever seen. The next Top 100 film we watch is a musical masterpiece taken directly from a famous 1979 play. I'll give you a hint. A giggling idiot clowns a brooding rival. Hey, thanks for watching. If you're excited about exploring the top 100 films for your movie nights, please like, subscribe, and click the bell. Those 3 actions really help me out. Here are The Simpsons.